we're out here. This is the field where the magic happens.
Benning Bites with Damon Benning. Benning Bites with Damon Benning.
Another episode of Benning Bites, brought to you by Hurrdat Sports. Really, really cool and easy to use. If I'm doing it and can excel, it's got to be fairly simple. So just make sure you download the app. It is Daily Fantasy Sports, higher and lower. It is so self-explanatory. If you're feeling pretty competitive and you like daily sports fantasy, Hurrdat Fantasy Sports, it's got to be for you. Just remember, you only have to do one thing. I don't ask for much. Use the promo code Benning, Benning. Show was all over the place today with my man, Ravi Lula. Appreciate you being a part of what we do. Fridays are always interesting. Very, very interesting. And we got into these discussions. We were talking about a lot of the press conferences yesterday and kind of the takeaways. And I felt like kind of this underappreciated part of what happened yesterday with all the he was pretty candid, pretty straightforward yesterday, addressed a lot of things. But I thought one thing that flew under the radar was he was going into the defensive coordinator hire, and he was talking about Coach Butler and not necessarily defending the secondary, but kind of how it played out real time with coming in July and having to get started and having to invest in guys and worrying about building relationships later and going with the older guys. And it's not so much that I think everybody got their pound of flesh in terms of, I knew, secondary was this and the secondary was that, and we wanted to see younger guys. Because remember, all along I said, if anybody's probably partial to them going young and was going to lack objectivity, it was probably going to be me. But I was trying to explain all year kind of the degree of difficulty of being good enough to be in it and not want to make wholesale changes, and the time constraints, and not just comparing, the secondary was kind of they struggled this year, so how could this guy be a coordinator? It's just so much more to it than that. And I felt like, not that he explained it, because he really didn't get into the nuances or the degrees of difficulty of doing it. What he did is he acknowledged that it was an issue. Right? He's like, this happened and this happened, and I know it looked like this. And then during the second bye week, this is kind of what we wanted to do, and it allowed for us to take a step back. Like, most people don't do that, and he kind of did it and just moved on. Hey, we were aware of it. We knew kind of what was going on. We didn't really have time to correct it or at least address it until this point. And by then he talked about development and how it took some time. And we kind of just gloss over that, like, that's what I knew something was wrong with. No, see, what he did was, he was very candid and forthright about knowing what was going on, which lets you know he's very, very self-aware. I talked about the three qualities that I think are going to give him a chance. I don't know what it's going to yield in wins and losses, but when you're highly competitive, you're self-aware, and you're other-centered, you've always got a chance. And so what did he just show you? I'm well aware of what was going on through the season. It's self-awareness. Being other-centered. I understand the degree of difficulty that it takes being in that situation with the job, learning a new system, understanding language with Coach White, and us kind of being close enough to where we're in the hunt to reach our goals. Extremely other-centered. He could have made it about him, could have rolled guys, but he didn't. And then the competitiveness to do something about it and surround himself and that defensive side of the ball with some answers. That's all you need to know. He's just not going to stand for a lot of nonsense when he's as competitive as he is. Just one of the reasons that I think he's got a chance. We'll see how it plays out, but I like the trajectory, and I like the fact that as long as you exude those three qualities, you're going to be in the deal. That's another episode of Benning Bites.
A Hurrdat Sports Network production.